Testing. Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Is that supposed to be a sound check? Why, you're not the audio guy. Oh dear, you're not one of those assholes, are you? And no check 1, 2 for you. Public service announcement brought to you by Inside Musicals. Hi, I'm Scott. You're watching Inside Musicals, the channel for all things musical theatre. Now, for anyone starting out in the industry, a sound check and mic technique can seem like mysterious things, because everyone assumes you know what you're doing, but no one really takes the time to teach you how to do it. So I'm going to share what I've learned over the years about making the most of the sound check without pissing off the audio engineer. And in the spirit of contrition, I'd like to apologise to all those audio engineers I worked with early in my career who had to endure my very useful input. May this video be my penance. So why do we sound check? Well, it's how we get a performance-ready sound before the audience comes in, making sure everything's plugged in and working, that it sounds the way we want, and we acquaint our ears to the sound of the room. And for the sake of this video, we're going to assume someone else is doing the mixing for you, just so we don't have to get into the weeds of mixing technique. But if you'd like that, leave me a comment. Now, a sound check for a concert or live venue with a handheld mic is going to be different to, say, a sound check for a recording studio, and different again from a sound check for a musical theatre production. So let's start with a live performance, live venue. And if you're new to live venues, I'm going to give you 4 things to do before you go near a microphone. Number 1, introduce yourself to the key personnel. So yes, that's the sound desk, but also the venue manager or whoever booked you. Maybe front of house, a bar person, and remember their names. They all play a part in making things work, and courtesy still goes a long way. And while you're introducing yourself, ask where the dressing rooms are, if there are dressing rooms, and where to set up your equipment. But don't panic, there's still time for them to hate you by the end of the show. Number 2, if you're in a band or a choir or there are multiple performers on stage, nominate one of you as the spokesperson to the sound desk. What we don't want is conflicting conversations like, I need more levels on the drums, and I want less levels on the drums. With one point of contact, there's no confusion and no wasted time. Now, if the sound desk addresses any of you directly, answer them directly, but otherwise, one spokesperson. Number 3, have a brief conversation with the sound desk, and I mean brief, about your style of music, just so they have a context for how to shape the sound. Because a little jazz trio is very different from a heavy metal band, and you wouldn't mix them the same. Number 4, make a printed set list of all of your songs with space in between to take notes. But yet, if it's a cabaret with songs and dialogue, give them a full script, or at least a cue sheet so they can anticipate when the songs are coming up. Because you might want reverb on the songs, but not on the spoken word, and you want them to be ready for it. Now, if there's one person on sound, someone else on lights, you might need 2 copies. And if you're in a theatre, you might need a 3rd for a stage manager. Okay, to the sound check. And there are really 2 elements. There's what the desk needs and there's what the performer needs. So let's start with the desk. Now, chances are they've already set up the equipment, tested the signal chain, done their funny little check 1, 2. So the best thing to do at this stage is simply ask, what do you need from me? And let them guide you. Typically, they'll start one performer at a time to make preliminary adjustments to each fader. And no check 1, 2 from you. Not useful. You should sing something you're about to perform at the same intensity you're about to perform it. Otherwise, you're not really checking the sound. Next, you'll probably play something as a group, again at performance level, so they can start to tailor the mix, balance the sound. Now, at a bare minimum, you should play your loudest song and your most intimate number, just so they have a sense of the contrasts. And sometimes they might ask you to top and tail the whole set, meaning playing the beginning and end of each song, so they can take notes or preset any changes. Now, the sound check for you, the performer, overlaps their sound check. It's not a separate thing, so you'll need to multitask. So right at the top, you might ask, how long do we have for the sound check? Just so you know you've got everything covered. Now, the next step for all singers is to make friends with the mic stand. There's nothing worse than seeing someone struggle with it on stage. So get to know how it adjusts, because every brand is different. Know which way it turns and how to get the mic in and out. And what's the right height for the microphone? Well, let's do a quick tour of microphones first. Now, this is a dynamic microphone. It's a typical form factor for live performance. You sing into the front, which is not the case with all mics. It has a durable body that resists handling noise, and it has a built-in pop filter to reduce sounds like p, b, t, and d, those plosives. And it's not foolproof, but it helps. And keep in mind that it's directional, what we call a cardioid pattern, meaning it's most sensitive at the front, a little bit sensitive at the back, and least sensitive at the sides. So if you're holding it like this, thinking the sound's going to fall into the mic, you're actually singing into the least sensitive area of the microphone.
More, 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 more.
So picture the mic like a torch. It's always shining at the mouth. And whatever you do, don't hold it like this. It looks pretentious, it hides your face. But then maybe you should hide your face, because you are pretentious and you're embarrassed. Not that I judge, but if I did, it's cute when I do it. Now, in a stand, the mic should be low enough that you're not reaching up to it, which feels uncomfortable, looks awkward, and it's not great for the voice. And in a sound check, always leave a bit of space between the mouth and the mic, at least 3 fingers, which gives you enough room to lean in for more volume if you need it. Because here's the thing about mics. The closer you are, the louder it is. The further away, the softer it is. Now, most people know that. What they don't know is that distance affects the frequency response. So the closer you are, the more bassy, the more boomy it is. The further away, the thinner it sounds. So what we're looking for is that sweet spot where we can control the volume, but we're not overly changing the character of the voice. So listen for that in a sound check. That means paying attention to the monitors, the foldback. Unless you've got a big budget for in-ear monitors, that's going to be those wedge-shaped speakers on the floor. So take note of where they are on the stage, because now it's time to explore the space and attune your ears to the sound of the room. How's the volume of the foldback? Can you hear yourself? Can you hear yourself in the mix? Because if you can't, now is when we want to get it right. Now, once the audience comes in, the levels might need to change because they suck up a lot of sound. So organise a signal with a sound desk to indicate you want more overall level or you want to hear yourself a little more in the mix. Now, everyone wants to hear themselves loudest in the mix. So you're going to have to negotiate. The advantage of being spokesperson, you call the shots. Now, as you move around the stage, make note of the best spots to hear the foldback. They're going to be your go-to zones. And then take note of the bad spots for feedback, which is that squealing noise as the sound loops back on itself. They're going to be your no-go zones. And never point your mic at the foldback. I mean, you know better than that. I mean, you're not a rookie. I mean, that's asking for trouble. See, and now they hate you. Now, we all do different kinds of gigs. So create a checklist that's going to work for you. How long is the mic lead? Is there a mic lead? Can you go out into the audience? Can you hear yourself out in the audience? How does the room sound? Is it echoey and unintelligible when you talk, which means you need to slow down when you speak? I mean, is the reverb sweet? Can you harness that for your money notes? Or is it dry and lifeless and you find yourself singing harder than you should? And that brings us to the final step in a live gig sound check, and that is negotiating the sound you want for your voice. Now, I like a bit of compression on the voice to kind of bring it up front a little more and to even out some of the edginess in the dynamics. And on my style of music, I like a bit of reverb to place the voice in a space. Give me something to sing into. Now, if you don't know what to ask for technically, just talk about the result. I want a smooth sound or a lush sound or an in-your-face sound, and let them interpret that. What you don't want to do is to talk about things you don't know anything about. So using phrases like, I always use about 4 dB of gain, about 3.5K, because in all likelihood, they'll pretend to move the dial and say, how does that sound? And you'll go, much better. And I'll go, what a douche. Because they know nothing's changed. Again, still time for them to hate you. Okay, let's talk recording studio, because some of the goals are the same. We want to set levels and shape the sound on the desk and in the monitoring, but the environment's different. Some of the equipment is different. Let's start with a mic, because instead of a rugged, handheld, dynamic microphone, it's most likely a large diaphragm condenser mic for a much more detailed sound. But they're very sensitive to handling noise, and they don't have a built-in pop filter. So it's going to be in a stand with an external pop filter that limits how close you can be to the mic. And instead of singing into the end, like the dynamic mic, it's what we call a side address microphone, meaning, you guessed it, we sing into the side. But make sure you sing into the right side, because much like that dynamic mic, it's directional. Now, in a professional recording studio, the talent never touches the mic, because some of them cost more than a small car. So that's the audio engineer's job. They'll set it at the height and position that works for you, but just make sure you can see any music or lyrics and the sound desk at the same time without having to turn your head away from the mic. Now, every mic has a slightly different frequency response that brings out different characteristics in the voice. So part of the sound check here might be trying multiple mics and multiple placements to see which one best suits your voice on that song. For instance, for a mellow baritone like me, I might prefer a mic with a bit of air, a bit of lift, a bit of brightness to boost that part of my voice. And I might place it slightly above the mouth to capture some of that frontal resonance in the face. Whereas someone with an edgier voice might prefer a more mellow mic to tame any shrillness. But again, it depends on the style of the song, the style of the music. So as you sound check, again, at performance level, listen to how your voice works with that mic and let them know what you prefer. But bear in mind, it's not about how the voice sounds in isolation, but how it works in the mix. So if you're not sure what you're listening for, trust their guidance. So how close should you be to the mic? You know, a good starting point is about 20 centimetres. It could be a little closer for something more intimate, a little further for something more shouty, a technical term. And always ask them whether they want you to ride the mic, meaning leaning in for the softer sections and back for the louder ones, or whether you should be stationary and let them control the dynamics from the desk. Now, headphones are necessary in the recording studio if we want to isolate the voice. We don't want the music track bleeding into the vocals, but they can take a bit of getting used to because suddenly everything's inside your head. And while it can feel spectacular to have everything up front and loud and crisp, it can also be exhausting. But if you drop the levels partway through a session, it can impact the energy of your performance. So I prefer to start at a moderate listening level with the voice maybe just a little bit higher than it would be in the mix. But if my acoustic voice is overpowering what I'm hearing in the cans, I like a bit of reverb or delay on the vocal so I can distinguish between the two sources and I can hear how I'm working the mic. Now, if it's a very busy orchestration, you might ask them to mute some tracks so you can hear yourself more clearly. But make sure there's enough pitch and rhythm information there to keep you in tune and in time and still match the energy of the arrangement. Now, some people are very intimidated by the isolation booth because it's, well, isolating. No, there's no audience to play to. There's no natural reverb in the space to kind of sing into. If everyone else is on the other side of a glass window, you can't even hear a word that they're saying unless they press the talkback button. So create a comfortable environment that puts you in a good mental state because you might be here for a while. I mean, maybe you prefer to dim the lights to help focus your attention. Just make sure you can still see the music or lyrics. Maybe you prefer to be barefoot, or you might need tea or water or lozenges, and you'll need a pencil and an eraser to mark up your music. So make sure you lay everything out beforehand so you're not fussing in the middle of a session. And never burn candles or incense or an oil burner because that smoke is going to make you cough. If you prefer a nice aroma, use an old-fashioned hand atomizer. Now, the thing about the recording studio is the sound check doesn't end at the first take, so keep yourself tuned in to any changes. Now, a musical theatre sound check is much like a live performance sound check, except there are two distinct sound checks here. There's a different kind of mic, and I'm sorry to say, here is probably where you have the least input into your personal needs and the aesthetics of the sound. So let's start with the mic, which is usually a condenser mic in miniature, similar to this, and it's omnidirectional, meaning it picks up sound equally in all directions. So it doesn't have to point at the mouth, but it should have a clear line of sight, so to speak. So if it's under the shadow of the chin or too far back on the head, you'll be losing some frequencies as they reflect or absorb around the skull. So placement's really important, and we'll come back to that. Now, in a video like this, a lapel-mounted mic makes perfect sense because I'm relatively stationary. But in a musical, where you might be dancing up a storm, we usually mount the mic on the head to maintain a consistent distance from the mouth. Plus, it makes costume changes a little easier. And unless it's one of those wire-mounted concert-style mics, it's usually mounted in the hairline, either at the ear, the temple, or in the middle. Now, I've seen some people tape it in place, but I've always twisted it into the hair and secured it with a mini rubber band. Because once it's there, it's not going to move, even if you sweat. So what are those 2 sound checks I mentioned earlier? Well, the first is going to be during technical rehearsal, where they're setting up sound for the first time. And the second is going to be before each performance. Now, at the technical rehearsal, ask whether they have a preference for placement, because it could impact the tone of the voice. But again, depending on the costume, the hair, wigs, there might only be one option. Oh, and it's up to you to remember where it goes to keep it consistent. Now, at this stage, they might work with individuals to check each fader and shape the sound, or they might do all of their magic while you're rehearsing. They might invite feedback about whether you can hear the monitors and whether there are dead zones, or you might just have to suck it up and work with what you've got. But you can still use that time for yourself, so listen to the space. Can you hear yourself? Can you hear the music? Can you hear the other singers? And can you see the conductor? And that might be the extent of your involvement in a technical sound check. Now, before each show, they might call you up one by one to check that the mic is working and make sure it's on the right channel. Or again, they might do all of that while you're doing a company vocal warm-up. But the point is, this sound check is not really for you. It's for them. It's for function. The sound's already set. They're just checking the system. Nevertheless, walk the stage before every performance just to tune back into the sound of the space. Oh, and once your mic pack is on, be careful about what you say backstage, because they could hear every word you say. Now, are there rules and boundaries around listening in? Of course. But you never know. Now, there are going to be exceptions to everything I've said, because every gig, every setup, every mic is going to be different. But this should help you get your bearings. But is there anything I've missed out on? Would you like to know about vocal recording sessions or setting up a sound desk? Leave me a comment. But if you're still listening, still watching, bless your cotton socks, I do love you. Now, get out there. Be brilliant.